error where it says something went wrong. You know, it's the equivalent of the check engine, right? Something in your engine is wrong. And yeah, on the first one, I made the bad joke of it's kind of like an SCA alert that's not really actionable. But then I was
Did it
older.
actually work this time? Are we live?
So I think we're live I know we're live. I think we're live everywhere, though. Meg and Jen, thank you so much for joining me. Meg, could you briefly introduce yourself? Let us know what you do for a living, and then we'll go over to Jen, and then we'll jump in.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Meg Sage. I'm a senior product security engineer for PagerDuty. I've been doing that for a few years, and prior to that, I did like several years in software engineering and web development. So that's kind of where my background came from.
AppSec engineer with a software development background is dangerous.
In the best way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jen, I think this is the first live stream that you've done.
I think that's possibly true, at least with you. Yeah, so Jen Guile, head of community with Endor Labs, which basically means I get to go out and like meet people like Meg and talk about tech and do a lot of like non-product, non-vendor education. I was actually just in Seattle last night doing a talk on secure vibe coding, which was super fun. And I think I'm still recovering from being in Las Vegas for 6 days. Um, it was a lot.
Yeah, you did all the conferences back to back,
I mean,
pretty
there were
much.
more conferences that I found out after I got there that existed. That I did Diana Initiative, I did BSides Vegas. I didn't technically do Black Hat, but it was during Black Hat I was running some like smaller group events and then DefCon. And I
There
managed to
was
make it to one party, and I'm very proud of myself for doing that.
There was also at the same time a Star Trek convention.
I heard. I didn't see anybody.
Yeah, I mean, I spoke to a few people. I mean, I guess it's not surprising. There's a big overlap between the security industry. Yeah, maybe let's start with vibe coding, right? You had the meetup last night, and you ran that a few times. I'm kind of interested in what have you been hearing from the security community when it comes to the approach that application security is taking towards I don't know if vibe coding or just AI generated code in general, but are you finding more interest or more concern?
Oh gosh. Well, what I'll say is the community that was in Seattle last night was very reflective of the community that was in Las Vegas. Like very mixed. It's not all security people. A lot of software engineers were there last night. We're in Vegas, and I would say like rewinding what 3 or 4 months to when we first started talking about this topic. The it was like very much a we don't know what this is kind of vibe, and so it was a lot of like, okay, this is how cursor works, this is how the code is generated. um, at this point, most people I know in security, and Meg, I'll be really curious to hear if this like represents you also, but like most people have used Cursor or GitHub Copilot or something and are like, excuse me, like getting some like first person experience with it and kind of understand the pros and cons and, realize that the code quality can be concerning, but also accept that like this is happening, we're doing this. And so we're transitioning more to people having concerns about like the surrounding technologies, like MCP servers are coming up a lot. It was, I would say, a recurring point of conversation in Las Vegas of, a little bit what is an MCP server, but more how can I be sure that it's safe, that it's not exposing me to something. So the other person who we were hoping to have on the live stream today who couldn't come, Srajan, did a talk on MCP server risks in Las Vegas. Meg, did you happen to catch that talk?
I did. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
It
did
was
you
really
think?
good.
Well, I guess first of all, are you using, any AI code assistance?
I've used it a little bit for most of the work I do. It's really a lot of ad hoc scripts. So I find it works fairly well for that because it's very well contained.
It's very scoped, right?
Yeah, I'm not concerned. There's not a larger application I'm worried about. It's mostly making a lot of API calls, and I can easily like review that code because it's pretty straightforward. So like that's my use for it, and I find it is great for that, especially if I'm like, oh hey, look at this other script and do a similar style to it. Make sure you do like so it's more consistent. I found it's good for that, but from everything I've heard from engineers, as soon as you start getting into much bigger application, it is not as effective.
Yeah, like I would say I can give some examples of my missteps with it. I spent more time than I care to admit this week trying to use Cursor to make like a Kahoot style quiz on the website that I had built for doing the meetup yesterday. And like I should have done a better job up front giving it good design documents of like, this is everything I wanted. I wasn't specific enough. And like what I would probably do at this point is just delete everything and start over because it never ended up functioning, but it built something that was client side only. And so that it wouldn't sync back and like it couldn't do all of the functionality that I built. And I was like, no. That's not going to work. Like we need to do it in this other way. And so it built it that other way and that worked. But then when I tested it, it had gone and changed all of the quiz questions inexplicably, totally different questions, not the ones that I gave it. So like, I definitely think that skills around how to scope it are really important. And actually the panel that I facilitated last night, we had people from Adobe and Microsoft and Zoom, and they were talking about less experienced security engineers or developers using Cursor and how they actually don't really want them using it. They want them to build those like foundational skills. And I can totally understand that, like why that is, because I'm not an engineer after having gone through that experience. It's like, nope, this would have gone a lot better if I knew what I was doing walking into it.
That's also on the live stream that we did with Dimitri, our CTO, a couple of weeks ago, where we tested Lovable. That was one of his main takeaways as well, where he was like, with Cursor, you have infinite degrees of freedom, right? You give it a problem and it tries to solve that problem in any way it possibly could, and that often leads to unnecessary layers of complexity and a lot of vulnerabilities and a lot of things that okay, I'm going to try to solve this problem by ruining this other thing. Where Lovable or V0 or Base 44, like these types of platforms, I've played around mostly with Lovable and V0. It's a very curated version of that, a very curated experience where it will always use the same framework, same database, same workflows. And when it deploys, it always deploys in the very same way, and all the security controls kind of look the same. So if you're trying to create a very specific thing like a web app, that is actually a really good option that is reasonably secure. If you're trying to build, like Meg said, something that is more complicated, that's bigger, that's going to be a nightmare to maintain. And also you're not going to have the degrees of freedom that you need in order to build that. So Meg, for you internally, are there a lot of conversations about developers using AI generated code, and how are we going to secure that? Is that something that is happening in your communities or in your day-to-day work?
There's definitely a lot of developers using it. I know a lot of the more senior ones are definitely a lot more hesitant around it, sometimes finding like it's not actually faster, and that there's being a lot more time spent on reviewing pull requests than before, which is interesting. I haven't heard tons about in terms of securing it. I read bits and pieces about how basically unless you instruct it to, it's unlikely to make anything secure. So that needs to be part of the actual instructions. So
Yeah.
I'm hearing a lot of the same feedback. Like there's a study that came out, I want to say about a month ago. I'll have to dig it up. Maybe we can toss it in the show notes. But basically, it was comparing people's anticipated productivity payoff from using these tools versus their real payoff. Like, how much productivity did you gain? For people who were less experienced, their productivity gains were reasonably good. For people who were more experienced, they actually took productivity hits because they know how bad the code is that's being written, and so they spend time trying to fix it.
Yeah. And also, productivity does not equal lines of code.
Exactly. And on the pull request side, I would say like every more senior engineer I talk to is spending a lot of time reviewing PRs. Like, there's just the volumes increasing, there's more changes. Like, these tools can make architectural changes that maybe you didn't expect, and you have to be really familiar with the application to know, oh, that's the wrong, SSO there, or oops, that's a new endpoint. Like, those kind of things. Like, it's not a replacement for a human. Human needs to be there.
So let's talk about Vegas a little bit. So Meg, can you tell us a little bit about, did you give any talks there, or did you attend any talks? What are some of the topics that were kind of repeating for you there?
Yeah, so I did a talk at BSides on malicious packages, and I went to, I think, probably a total, I tried to count them all, in around 20 talks between
Good job.
BSides and
Do you
and
retain
DefCon.
anything, or it's all a blur?
I did have to go back through my notes last night and try to remember which ones were which. There's definitely a lot on, like a lot around AI, MCP servers, and I did also try to look at anything else. It was, like, I did see another talk on malicious packages, which was really cool, because I'm like, there's someone else talking about this that's like been in this field for a lot longer. So that was really cool.
What was your talk about
My
when it
talk,
comes to malicious
so
packages?
I talked about malicious packages or malicious dependencies, and I kind of did a overview of what they are, the different tactics that they use to try to like get into applications, and talked a lot about how they focus on developers, which is often not what people think about. They think about things trying to attack production systems, or they think about CVEs, which typically affect production systems, and they don't really think about developers and how that fits into the workflow, and how a lot of tooling wasn't designed for developers running things on their local machines. And so I kind of went through a bunch of different things that can help protect against malicious packages, and like some pros and cons to them. So
Yeah, I thought your talk was really good. I definitely it resonates with, malicious packages are targeting developers. It makes a lot of sense, because when people usually think about malware, they're thinking about like email attachments and things like that, which again is attacking the individual, not, trying to infiltrate through the application. I'm curious, Meg, like how aware do you feel like people are that malicious packages are a problem?
based on some of the feedback I've had, because I've talked about this topic a couple times, like in Vancouver, where I live, at local events, and from some of the feedback I've had, I think a lot of people aren't really aware. It didn't really click for them that it's like, oh, this is attacking a lot earlier in the like software development process, and that's not generally what a lot of protections are aimed around. So a lot of people, I definitely had a lot of people come up to me and be like, yeah, that was really cool. I never thought about that. I didn't realize that. So I think there's a lot more awareness coming out about it. And I heard it was brought up a lot, I think, in a lot of the different talks that I went to, between BSides and DefCon. So it definitely is a topic that's becoming more and more common.
Yeah, you made a good point about how it's particularly problematic in like test environments.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, a lot of tooling developers run it on their local machines. Like, there was a linter that was compromised, like an ESLint something that was compromised last month, that had tens of thousands of downloads, and linters developers run those all the time, and they run them like while they're doing local development. And a lot of your tooling, especially if it's in your CI/CD pipeline, it's not it's not going to catch it. So
did you
I
go
think that's one of
for
the things people don't
kind
realize.
of a 101 introductory level with your talk, or did you assume that people generally have the background that they need, like to understand software development for that talk?
I only had 20 minutes, so I didn't really have a ton of time. So I kind of just assumed that there is a basic understanding of like software development and like installing packages, and at least vaguely understanding what a CI/CD pipeline is. So I did kind of go into a little bit of examples here and there to help with understanding, but there definitely was the understanding that people are familiar with installing packages and are at least familiar with a package manager of some sort.
Yeah. And the rest of the sessions were Black Hat sessions, or mostly was it DefCon and BSides?
I think a lot of the AppSec stuff I saw was mostly DefCon, but there were a few at BSides. I think I saw a lot more variety of different topics at BSides.
So overall, what do you think? Worth the trip for the sessions, or mostly for the reunion? Because I feel like when I go to these things, it's just, you meet your resume, you meet everyone you've ever worked with, both in marketing and in security. So what's your verdict?
I think it's totally worth it. I love I've been going to DEF CON for a few years, and I love it. And this was my first time going to BSides, and I'm definitely going to go back because I liked how it was a lot smaller. So it was a lot easier to go to a lot of talks, and there was quite a variety of topics. So there was a lot more talks there that I went to purely for fun. Purely for fun. One was about hacking Bluetooth blenders. It's like that's not at all related to my work, but it was interesting, and so I think it was the smaller convention was or conference was a good opportunity to see other things outside of like my normal realm, because at DEF CON I usually pretty much focus on AppSec or AppSec adjacent things.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I really like B-Sides. I like it for two reasons. And I would say one of those is like everything that you just said. Like there's a really great variety. It's relatively small. Like I want to say they said somewhere around 3,000 people for B-Sides Las Vegas. But the other thing that I really like is it's community run. And so you just get a different like vibe in the sessions, like the types of sessions that are accepted. I don't know, there's no expo, whatever you call the room where you eat lunch, and like there's some vendor tables, but also the lock picking stuff. Like it's just a lot less, well, like Black Hat, which I don't know. Did you go to Black Hat at all, Meg?
No, I've never been.
Yeah, I think the feedback that I heard from people who went is it's gotten very commercial and very, vendory, flashy, that it wasn't a lot of value this year. I don't know. I didn't attend either. That's more coming from the people I know who went. But I think there's a little bit more confidence in like the quality of the sessions when you go to a B-Sides.
Yeah, I mean, besides the fact that like years ago, I went to BSides, and on my first day there, someone like walked by me. I don't exactly know what the device that does this, but like burned my the key card for the hotel.
Oh, nice.
Like I think duplicated it or something, but like it wouldn't work anymore. And then I went to the front desk, and I just remember this person rolling their eyes, because it's like, yes, this happens all the time at the security conference where like we get ready for it. Um, yeah, but so what's your advice? I mean, both of you from the vendor and community side, but also from the more attendee side. What's your advice for vendors at B-Sides? Like how do you thoughtfully engage? Because obviously the community needs the vendor support in order to fund this type of thing, but it's also very easy to look at, because we've had, of course, these conversations at multiple companies that we've worked at, where you sponsor these events and there's always the expectation, oh, okay, I sponsor, then I get leads, right? But it's sort of not like, that's not why you do a B-sides for, and that's not what the audience there wants to see. And at least my experience has been with people that are both champions, buyers, practitioners, not just in application security, but this was the same in cloud security and network security. Like, people are just people. Like, people are great. They're there to learn. They understand that there are some vendors. They understand that vendors will have their, like, little lemonade stands, and if you want their lemonade, then if you're thirsty, go and get it.
What do you think, Meg? Coming from like an attendee side, what do you like to see? What do you not like to see?
I find the vendors are generally pretty approachable. Like, you can just go and talk to them, and a lot of times they'll have like fun shiny swag or something interesting, and that makes it easy to talk to them, ask questions like, oh, why do you have these like cute plushies? What are they for? Are you doing a game or something like that, without it necessarily always being a sales pitch, or like someone standing there trying to like get your attention, flag you over. I think just everyone is very, just like really friendly, and not, there's no like aggressive sales, like I want to give you my pitch right away, though. I think it's just nice to talk to people, and it doesn't feel so sales and selling focused.
Yeah, that selling behavior will probably get you kicked out, honestly, as a vendor.
Yeah. So what's your do's and don'ts?
Probably say we won't let you come back.
Yeah. So Jen, what's your do's and don'ts when running an event like B-Sides?
Yeah, I think everything that Meg said is totally true. Like, having your, if you have a table or a booth or something, like, make it be an opportunity to connect with people and like have conversations and like inject some fun into it. I think my favorite thing that we do is like give away like the lightsabers and the plushies, and there's nothing quite like handing a lightsaber to like a 50-year-old person and like seeing their like face light up and like they're like a small child again, and I love that. Like, I think that's so fun. So I think finding ways to just like spark fun and joy, and then like, don't just sponsor and stay at your table the whole time. Like, go to the sessions, like look on the agenda and see, what's interesting to you personally. Like, there's one that I really wanted to go to that my schedule was crazy and I couldn't, where it was like, how do you save the stickers that you put on your laptop?
That's
I'm sure it's recorded. I want to know. I have stickers I really like. But if you're, for example, in application security, like, go through the agenda and look for AppSec topics and go and just learn and talk to people. It's more about connecting and hearing from people what they're going through and what they're interested in. Like, I heard people talking, going back to the beginning of our conversation, about their concerns around MCP servers probably the entire week. Like, anytime AI came up, that seemed to be the thing that people were really worried about, because there's a lot of authorization concerns, there's a lot of like data access concerns, and I don't know that I would have known that as a vendor if I hadn't been there and been talking to people and just been there to listen.
Yeah, 100%. So we also did some private sessions in the suite that we had in the Mandalay Bay, which I thought the interest in that was really interesting, because you have a week full of sessions, yet people seemed very hungry for kind of the more intimate gatherings of, all right, we're going to sit around this table, or we're going to sit in this living room and we're going to talk about something. So what were the main themes and topics that came up in those?
Yeah, well, you said people were hungry. I think they were also hungry for food. So you never know, like, when you're offering food, if they're coming for the food or the content. I would say in this case, it was definitely both. So let's see. We didn't have like a really strong theme other than application security throughout the sessions, but all kind of like start with the last one that we did on how the software supply chain is changing with AI being in the supply chain. And so we talked a lot about like what does software supply chain security mean when your components have changed. I had Cassie Crosley come, who's an author of an O'Reilly book on the topic, and I thought something was really interesting that she said. She went back to O'Reilly to talk with them about updating the book because it doesn't really talk very much about AI. It's about 2 years old. And she kind of went over the volume of updates she thought it needed. And O'Reilly actually said that it wasn't enough change to justify a new edition. And it's interesting because it's a lot of like, okay, yes, we have this new thing in the supply chain, but the stuff you do is basically the same. You're just doing it in a different context. So, for example, a software bill of materials now should include your AI models and services. That doesn't actually change the foundational concepts of an SBOM. You just do it in a slightly different way. So a lot of the conversation there was, what's old is new. The things that you should have been doing for your open source dependencies are the same things that you should be doing with your AI dependencies. So I thought that was a really interesting conversation. We talked a lot about regulations and how that's going to change between the US and kind of the interesting, place we are right now with stepping back from regulatory stuff versus the EU, where a lot of regulations are moving forward around AI. What I think we're going to be seeing and the trends that I was hearing in those sessions is even if, here in the US or even in Canada, if you don't have a regulation that you have to comply with by law, there's still going to be customer expectations that you do the things like in the new ISO standard, for example, around like being able to give a bill of materials and say what AI is in your products. So people are going to be doing it whether they're legally required to or not.
Yeah,
I thought that was an interesting trend.
In a lot of ways. Megg, I'm interested to get your take on it. Like, do you feel that, there's this notion that only compliance really drives a change in security behavior? Do you feel that's true?
I think that's definitely the thing that forces people to do it and companies to do it. But I think there's definitely a lot that can still be driven by people advocating for it. Like advocating for something being a concern at a place you work, something that like, okay, we have a tool that checks the box for compliance, but it's not actually good. Let's find something better, or let's implement it better so that it actually is improving our security versus just checking a box. So I think there is a lot of people that, at least security engineers, don't want to just check boxes, and at least some amount of leadership that understands that checking the box doesn't actually necessarily protect as well as one would like.
Mm-hmm. And I think
what I'm curious, you talking about leadership recognizing that, like, given they're like, multiple steps away from actually using the tool and knowing if it works, how do you find they learn what works and what doesn't? Like, is this just all about internal communication? Are they getting reports up to them? Like, how do you communicate with your leadership if you need to make a change?
I think I haven't had to personally communicate with people too much higher than me a lot, but I've definitely seen it done fairly effectively by some of my colleagues. Usually that's the job of the staff engineers. A lot about metrics. The C-suite and stuff, they love numbers, they love metrics. So if we can put into numbers, put like a report together being like, okay, well, this is where something is at, this is where we would like it to be, or also being able to provide anecdotal evidence, especially if it's like there's a thing we'd like to do better and there's an example where that thing hurt another company. Like, those are definitely, I think, things that I've seen done very effectively, because the leadership several levels up doesn't understand the technical details. So yeah,
that's good advice. Not just data, but like hey, this happened to our competitor, or this happened to, a recognizable brand. This is why it happened. Let's not be that. Let's not do that.
Yeah. So there's a point that Jen made about O'Reilly not wanting to update the book, and it's a lot of the back to basics. Which, by the way, I'm also feeling that in marketing, where like content marketing is reverting back to, hey, just make content that is valuable for people, and it will stand out more, in search and everything, as opposed to just generate as much stuff as possible. But having said that, I do feel that the introduction of AI into the workflows that we engage with every day did change my job completely. And I wonder if that is also true for application security. Meg, do you feel that since this AI wave started washing everything, did your job change significantly, or do you foresee your job changing significantly, or not so much?
I wouldn't say it's changed significantly. I would say it's changed significantly for my colleagues that are specifically on AI projects. But there's definitely a lot more discussions. There's a lot of new things that we have to look for that we didn't have to look for before. I remember when like ChatGPT first came out, it was just like, no, you can't use every ChatGPT plugin that you find. No, you can't do that. And now it's shifting. Now it's more about securing the code, looking at the code that it's generating, concerns about MCP servers. I think it's still evolving a lot. So I don't know where exactly it's going to go, but there's definitely a lot of interesting new things to be aware of.
Yeah, I think what I'm hearing a lot of is how good it is for productivity or automating toil. So the event that I was at last night, I was talking to a security leader from Adobe who was saying that they developed their own internal MCP server that pulls Jira tickets into, whoever has it integrated into their IDE. So that if they want to find out about almost like a generative AI experience, hey, tell me how many tickets are in this particular repo, like they can actually do that from their IDE and have it pull directly from Jira and do it in that way rather than having to go to Jira and like manually filter. And they have it set up so that anybody can use it and it just pulls based on their Jira permissions. Another example, actually, from a talk that I saw at the Diana Initiative, also from Adobe, is their security, like threat intelligence team, is using these models to filter information. Like they have a tremendous amount of information that they have to look at, and like from a human perspective, good luck. Like our brains are not built to consume all of that, let alone fast enough. And so they're using it to consume it really quickly. And then Clara from Zoom, who spoke last night, she was talking about, so she runs a bug bounty program that they have their very own like scoring model internally that basically says like how serious is this bug and how much should someone get paid for it. And so they've trained an LLM to be able to use that to automatically score like submissions from the community for people looking for a bounty. And so they have their like own version of a CVSS score, and it beep boop boop, okay, here's what you do. So like it's more, I'm not hearing a lot of my job has drastically changed, and more I can do this thing more effectively, faster, whatever. So I love the creativity that I'm seeing.
Yeah. I mean, I think that in our world, I'm also hearing about a lot of things that actually became slower. Like I spent, 48 hours building the most advanced AI workflows on whatever, and what I have to show for it is that it is now 48 hours later, and none of them actually work. But yeah, like simple things, that can be automated away are, yeah, that is a huge impact. But just back to Vegas a little bit before we wrap up. So it sounds like BSides, huge success. What about DefCon? What do you feel the focus was? What are some of the interesting conversations you had there?
DefCon is like really overwhelming. It's really big. It's in the Las Vegas Convention Center. I think it's what, 4 floors of like stuff. I spent most of my time in the AppSec village, but I did also wander around a lot. I would say the conversations were generally pretty similar to the ones I had at BSides because it was a lot of the same people who were at BSides and just are looking for like a different type of experience. What do you think, Meg? Was it kind of like that for you?
Yeah, definitely. I think, yeah, a lot of the same things. I mostly stuck around the AppSec village or the malware village. Those were the main areas I was, and it was, yeah, a lot of the same sort of themes, just kind of branching off in more directions. I think is what I found. Yeah, so a lot of the same topics.
DefCon's definitely more of what I would call like an experiential event. Like it's not just about going to the sessions, right?
Yeah, there's lots of people that just go there for just the contests and just a lot of the the random occurrences there. I think are part of the experience. Like you just see someone, oh yeah, there's just someone walking by in a duck costume. That's
Is it
inflatable
the
duck
same?
costume. That's fine. That's normal at DEF CON.
Is the same governing body as Black Hat that runs DefCon or separate?
I don't think so.
So
Because it's always together. Like it's always one after the other.
Yeah, that may just be more of like a scheduling convenience. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody's already at Vegas. Would you call
I mean,
it more
I
of
did
an
see a lot of people brought their kids to DEF CON, which I thought was interesting. And I'm like, I would love to talk to some, 14-year-old girl who went and say, like, what did you experience there?
yeah. Is that an appropriate live stream? I don't know.
I think it'd be fun if I could find one.
I always feel like I've never brought my kids to Vegas. That always feels weird to me. I don't know. Yeah, like I see the benefit of it. Like you have the hotel, the pool, the conferences, but it is also Vegas.
Yeah.
Uh, would you call DefCon more of an AppSec event, or because it sounds you said
No,
Meg that.
AppSec is like one really small part of it.
Mhm.
So there's, I don't know how many villages are there, Meg, like at least 20.
yeah, at least. Yeah.
So, like everything from, your more, I don't know, pen testing and that kind of thing, like these are jobs to, there was a biohacking village.
Mhm.
There was one for marine hacking, which I didn't go into but looked great. Someone was doing like soldering somewhere. So it's like, I would say DEF CON, if Meg, you said BSides is like AppSec plus other topics, DEF CON is like going even wider, like as wide as you can possibly go in security topics.
Yeah. Okay. Any parting words? Advice for aspiring AppSec people? Which conference to go to? Survival guide before we wrap up.
I would say, um, I would not choose to go for 6 days to Vegas again. That was a lot for me personally. If I was going for the first time and I had more of an AppSec interest, I would probably go to BSides. It's like not as overwhelming. Um, 2.5 days and then get out. I think like going for the entire week, if you can do that, that's great. Like make sure you take an actual vacation in the middle. Go find something to do that's not, I'm in a conference room all day. What do you
Yeah.
think, Meg?
Yeah, I definitely agree. DEF CON is certainly a lot and it can be overwhelming because you just don't know where to start, especially if you're going there for the first time. You don't know anyone. You don't know anyone going, just like figuring out how everything works is a lot. I think B-Sides is definitely a lot more accessible, especially if anyone is paying out of pocket because it's the hotel. Like the hotel is a lot less expensive. Everything is a lot more affordable. I found DefCon is definitely a amazing experience though.
Yeah, I would say like don't be intimidated by it. I think it's the most diverse event that I've ever been to in tech, and like I say that with no question about it. Like all kinds of people, all ages, like all interests. Like a lot of conferences you go to, everyone's like in the black t-shirt uniform. DEF CON, you see the full range of humans. So I thought that was very different and like
Yeah, Black Hat is definitely more of a work conference. It's still a very different vibe than RSA. But yeah, DEF CON I've only went once. Yeah, I'm excited to go again, even though I'm not a huge fan of Vegas in August, because that is, a friend of mine just they came by here to Seattle, and they picked up an RV and they were going to Burning Man, and they were trying to like sell Burning Man to me, and I was like, that sounds like all of my nightmares just wrapped up into like the desert camping. What's Burning Man? Well, that's a conversation for another day. Cool. But yeah, thank you so much for spending some time with me this morning, just chatting about Vegas and Black Hat. Meg, thank you so much for joining us on the live stream. Lily, thank you for joining us too. All right, I think we can sign off.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.